Well, welcome back to the kitchen. I'm your Fat Daddy host, Craig, here on the Fat Daddy Sports Podcast. And every fantasy analyst or content creator or fantasy expert, they all have their guys that they love, guys that they hate, their flag plants for the year. And today, I just want to go through some of the guys that I love when I'm going through these mock draft processes, guys that here in the next month or so when my actual drafts take place, these are the guys that I'm targeting, whether it be early in the rounds, late in the rounds, or even with that last pick, or I scoop them up right after the draft. It'd be really easy to look at the first two rounds and just name off 8 guys and call it good. Yeah, these are the guys I love because they're the best players in football. But I feel like that's just too easy. So I want to give you some deeper names, some guys that are not being talked about nearly as much in the fantasy circles. There's some love for them out there, but maybe not as much as some other guys around them. So we'll just kind of go position by position. I'll give you a couple quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, and then maybe even we'll take a look at some of those guys going really late in the draft that are some honorable mention guys. So let's jump into it, and we'll just go position by position. We'll start at the quarterback position. The first guy that I love that I'm trying to target in my drafts, and again, this is not who I think the best pick is in every round or the absolute best pick. This is just guys that are flying under the radar a little bit, or they're at a great cost right now because of their ADP. I think they're going to outperform that ADP. Examples like that. So the first guy is a guy who through the years has kind of fit this mold pretty good. And that's Brock Purdy. I mean, you even look at his NFL draft, real life draft, Mr. Irrelevant, the last pick in the NFL draft. And he's been nothing but good ever since he took over that job. Battled some injuries last year, but now you come into this year and you can get, Brock Purdy late in the draft process. Going at the end of the 9th round right now on Sleeper is Brock Purdy, and a guy who last year closed out the season on an absolute tear for fantasy managers, myself included. Brock Purdy helped bring me home my home league championship. I picked him up when Patrick Mahomes went down with his injury. And Brock Purdy made managers so mad in my league, and I loved every second of it. He closed out the season coming off of that Week 14 bye. He then, in this specific league, the scoring is going to be a little bit different in every league, but in this specific league, he went for 32.2 points, 40.9 points, 44.92 in the championship. Those last 3 weeks of the season, just electric from Brock Purdy. That's a 6-point passing touchdown league. And so those numbers are a little bit higher than maybe in your league. But nonetheless, Brock Purdy was just out of this world down the stretch. I mean, he had in those games, Brock Purdy, 3 touchdown passes, 5 touchdown passes against Indianapolis, 3 in another game. He also added 2 rushing touchdowns. Oh, no. Sorry. Yeah, he did add two rushing touchdowns in that championship game against Chicago, where he had 3 passing touchdowns as well. So just out of this world numbers from Brock Purdy, over 40 points in those last 2 weeks of the season. And now he is going in the bottom half of leagues. I mean, end of bottom half of rounds. I'm sorry. He is in that 9th round right now. And he is, I think, being very undervalued. You look at the guys going around him. Let me pull that up real quick in this last, let's see here. Should have been more prepared. You've got him going around guys like Mahomes coming off of the ACL injury, going after Trevor Lawrence, who was, elevated last year in a Liam Cohen offense. We'll see what happens there. Going after Caleb and Justin Herbert, Dak Prescott, right around Bo Nix. So there's definitely guys around that same range that maybe gives you a little bit more upside because of the rushing. But the 49ers are going to be an exciting offense this year. They bring in Mike Evans, who is just a red zone god. You look at his career touchdowns inside the 5, and it feels like he's got a million of them. You think back to when Tom Brady was there, and it always felt like Mike Evans finished with a crazy line, like 3 catches, 3 touchdowns, 12 yards, or something like that. Somebody that you hate playing against in fantasy week in and week out because he is so good at scoring touchdowns. He could go 4 quarters without a touchdown, and suddenly he has 2 by the end of the game. So I just think with a healthy George Kittle coming back from his injury, Christian McCaffrey, who's off of a big year in terms of touches last year, they're going to want to limit that a little bit, I think. A healthy Ricky Pearsall this year. And I think that Mike Evans is going to catch a bunch of touchdown passes. And so who's throwing them to him? It's Brock Purdy. I think Brock Purdy is going to get an uptick in touchdowns this year, specifically inside, the 10, whatever it is. I do think he'll have some big plays there with Ricky Pearsall, but ultimately I just think Brock Purdy, the price that you're paying to get him is not very much. I think that you can wait on a quarterback, or maybe not purposely wait, but if you don't get one of those big name guys, I'm okay taking Brock Purdy late. I've even had him fall a little bit later than that, into the 10th or 11th round even. Just depending on the league and the format and who takes who before that. But I think Brock Purdy is an excellent choice if you're going to wait on quarterback, whether it's on purpose or not. Brock Purdy can be the guy for you in a 1 quarterback league. Staying with the quarterback position, another guy who is very underrated and maybe for good cause, but I'm going to stick my neck out a little bit here, and I am going to go to Minnesota Vikings projected new starting quarterback, Kyler Murray. He has shown things when he was in Arizona that he is a top 5 fantasy football quarterback. He has a somewhat safe floor with the legs, maybe not as much as what he used to, but he still provides a good floor with his legs week in and week out. And I don't think that the Vikings and Kevin O'Connell went out and got him just to sit him behind J.J. McCarthy. As bad as it was last year in Minnesota, as bad as it was for McCarthy, there's no way they roll him back out there in week 1. I can see a case where maybe Kyler starts the year and maybe it doesn't go well and JJ gets in there, but I really don't think that's going to happen. I think Kyler is there for a reason. We've heard Justin Jefferson talk about him this offseason, and just when he's comparing the 2 quarterbacks, a lot of the stuff with JJ is he's got to learn how to be a professional. He's got to learn how to lead. He's got to learn how to do all these little things. And then when he talks about Kyler, it's strictly, hey, he needs to be the guy we brought him in here to be. He is the alpha. He is the guy. We want him here. He needs to just go out there and act like he is the guy every single day. So I don't see a world in which Kyler Murray is not the starting quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings. And Kevin O'Connell obviously has shown through the years that he is an offensive guru. He can get the best out of quarterbacks. I'm hoping that the best out of Kyler Murray is a top, 10 quarterback at the very least. And when you're paying for Kyler Murray in these drafts, you're getting him in the 14th round, middle of the 14th round. I don't think that there's really much risk to that pick. I think that he provides some good upside there. And if you take him in that 14th round, he could definitely pan out and be a top 10 quarterback for you, especially if you pair him with a guy. Maybe you pair him with a guy like Brock Purdy or a guy like Baker Mayfield or maybe Matthew Stafford. You wait and you take 2 quarterbacks late and you get Stafford, who gives you those touchdown upsides with Puka and Devontae, but he is up there in age and the injuries are starting to creep in on him. Maybe you just have Kyler stashed on your bench to throw in there if Stafford gets hurt. I think Kyler is a perfect late round flyer, a perfect guy that you could pair with another quarterback and could pay off at the end of the year. He could be inside that top 7 quarterbacks. And at that point, yeah, it's a huge win on draft day. If you can get a guy in the 14th round or even later, if you're waiting that late to take a quarterback, which I don't advise waiting that late to take your quarterback 1. Let me make that clear. If you're waiting that late, why not take a flyer on a guy rather than taking a defense or a kicker? That's something I love to do. And I know a lot of fantasy analysts are really starting to come around on that. Is if you're still in a league where you're playing with a defense and a kicker, just wait. You don't need to take one of those guys. Pick up another guy with upside like a Kyler Murray in one of those last picks. Throw him on your bench, and before the first game or even after week 1, you make a change and maybe he's not the guy. Who knows? touchdowns. And then you can pick up a defense or a kicker at that point. But you don't need to take a defense or a kicker right on draft day. You can take guys with upside and let the season play out a little bit. We'll jump over to the running back position now, and we will go to Jacksonville, where Bashal Tutin is sitting there for you in the end of the 5th, beginning of the 6th round on Sleeper right now. That ADP is starting to climb a little bit, and that worries me just a little bit. But I think if you can get Bashal Tutin in the 6th round, it's going to be a good pick. This is a guy who kind of burst onto the scene last year in preseason. They had a crowded backfield there with Travis Etienne or Travis Achan, whichever you prefer. And then Tank Bigsby was there as well, and Bashal Tutin was kind of staring up at the depth chart. They go out and they trade Tank Bigsby to Philadelphia right at the start of the season. And Travis Etienne ends up having a pretty okay season. I mean, he was, I think he was a top 10 running back last year, or top 15, I'm sorry, running back last season. Let me check that real quick and verify. But I know that I had him on my squad there for a little bit. Yeah. In this specific league, he finished as the running back 10. So top 15 running back last year was Travis Etienne, had a great start to the season. I know I capitalized off that myself and traded him away. And then Bashal Tutin kind of came on. That was one of the reasons that I did trade him away, is because I knew that Tutin was going to come on and kind of be the guy. So this offseason, Etienne goes to New Orleans. Obviously, that is one of the bigger fantasy moves that we had this offseason. And now this Jacksonville backfield is Bashal Tutin's to lose. He does not have a whole lot of competition in that backfield. They bring in Chris Rodriguez from Washington to kind of be his backup. LaQuint Allen is there. And I mean, they bring in some other guys, Amir Abdullah, DJ Dallas. We'll see who ends up making the team of this crowded backfield right now. But Liam Cohen is on record this week talking about Bashal Tutin and their love for him, and how last year he was really focused on ball control and doing the little things and pass pro. And this year they're just telling him, hey, just go out and do what you do best. You're a spectacular player and the league is ready to see you shine. Just go out and do what you do. And I think, if you can get Bashal Tutin in the 6th round, even at the end of the 5th round, I think he's going to be a very good value pick. I think this Jacksonville offense was very good last year. They kind of took the league by storm in Cohen's first year. I think the league will kind of crack down on that a little bit this year, maybe take just a step back. But I mean, they supported a top 10 running back last year, top 15 running back last year. So why can't Tutin do it this year? I think that he is going to outperform where he is being drafted. I think Bashal Tutin is a great pick there at the end of the 5th round. We'll stay at the running back position, and we will stay with the ageless wonder, a guy who every year it feels like analysts and professionals are telling us to steer clear of this guy. The time is up. The wheels are about to fall off. And Derrick Henry just continues scoring touchdowns. I mean, that's what he has done his whole career. He's done it without catching a whole lot of passes. He just gets into the end zone. Obviously came over to Baltimore a few years ago and really took his game to the next level. We kind of thought the end was near when he was in his time in Tennessee, comes over to Baltimore and just rips off some major seasons there for the Ravens. I mean, he was running back 4 his first year with Baltimore. Last year, he was another top 10 running back, and the price is starting to, I don't want to say it's dropping because he's still one of the top picks here in the draft, but he's priced right, in my opinion. If you can get him as your RB2 in the middle of the 3rd round, I've even had him fall to the end of the 3rd round or the back half of the 3rd round. If I can get him there, I'm scooping him up and not even thinking twice about it. A lot of leagues, I'm getting a guy like Jonathan Taylor in the 1st round, and then I'm coming back around and getting Derrick Henry in the later half of the 3rd round. And I think that's a good 1-2 punch personally, especially if I go out and get a receiver in that 2nd round. I love having Derrick Henry as my RB2. And even if you wait and you get a guy like Derrick Henry, in the end of the third round, and then you come back around and get a guy like Kyron Williams, having that 1-2 punch of guys that are going to get those red zone touches, they have such a safe floor. I think Derrick Henry is a phenomenal pick at the middle to end of the third round. If he creeps up by draft time, I know that these sleeper ADPs are going to change a lot by the time the end of August rolls around. If he creeps up into that second round, he's probably a little too rich for my liking. But if he falls because other guys start coming up, I'm scooping him up all day and not even thinking about it. Love Derrick Henry in the middle to late end of the third round. We'll jump over to wide receiver now, a guy who I've talked about in some previous podcasts and previous videos. He's in a new place with a familiar coach, and that is AJ Brown. He is going over to New England to play for Mike Vrabel and play alongside Drake May, be the undisputed wide receiver one there. New England, Drake May loves throwing the deep ball, and that's something that AJ Brown is so good at over the years. And right now you can get him in the middle to late round 3. If you can scoop up AJ Brown as your wide receiver 2, or even if you go running back in 1 and 2 and you get AJ Brown as your wide receiver 1, beautiful start to the draft. Love that start. He is going to get a ton of targets there. That's going to be an offense that should score a lot of points. Drake May, like I said, loves throwing the deep ball, and AJ Brown is phenomenal at that. I just think AJ Brown, middle of the third, is crazy. I mean, this is a guy that just a couple of years ago for Philadelphia, where he wasn't catching that many passes and had Devontae Smith there to deal with. He was going at the end of the first round. Now we can get him maybe at the end of the third round. Sign me up all day. I'll take AJ Brown there. Another guy who is maybe one of the most undervalued fantasy players year in and year out, and I never understand it. I mean, I know that he gets his flowers, but he's not talked about nearly as much as I think that he should be. And that is the wide receiver 1 in Detroit, Amon-Ra St. Brown. This is a guy who, since his rookie year, in 2021, he finished as a top 25 wide receiver. Kind of came on midway through the year, really took off at the end of that season and bolstered those numbers. But since then, he has been a top 7 wide receiver every year. I mean, the last 3 years, he has finished as wide receiver 3. I just don't think that there is a safer pick when you're looking at the first round of your fantasy football draft. I mean, guys that he is going around there's a lot of question marks about a lot of those guys. I can make a case having a question for a guy like JSN. That Seattle offense was so good last year under Clint Kubiak. He now goes to Las Vegas. What is that Seahawks offense going to look like? Does JSN come back down? Obviously, love the talent of JSN, but we've seen it in the past. His production hasn't always matched his athletic ability just because of different schemes that have been there in Seattle. Last year, it all aligned perfectly. JSN had that huge breakout, got paid this offseason. Does that Seahawks offense come back down a little bit this year? Does JSN's production come back down a little bit? Then you have Christian McCaffrey, who coming off a ton of touches last year, up there in age. You've got Mike Evans there in the red zone. I can make a questionable case there for Christian McCaffrey. Jonathan Taylor, same thing. We've seen him struggle with injuries. We've seen that offensive line struggle at times. Shane Steichen struggle in big games. Daniel Jones is the quarterback. I mean, he was terrible in New York, came to Indianapolis last year, had a good start to the season before getting hurt, but who knows if that was actually the real deal. James Cook took a step back last year. They add DJ Moore in Buffalo. Did his numbers come down a little bit? CeeDee Lamb's got George Pickens there now. I mean, you could make a question about a lot of these guys. Justin Jefferson in Minnesota. We talked about Kyler Murray a little bit, but who's going to end up being that quarterback 1? How does that impact Justin Jefferson? He's obviously had a down last couple of years. I just look at the guys all around Amon-Ra in the first round, and there's not a safer pick than Amon-Ra in that first pick. I mean, you go, whatever order you want to take, Bijan, Jameer, Jamar Chase, and Puka. And I'm good with all 4 of those guys. And then at 5, I could make a case to take Amon-Ra. No question, especially in a PPR league. He is the number 1 target in a very, very good offense, maybe the best offense in the NFC. We'll see how it shakes out this year. But I mean, just ungodly numbers he puts up every single year. He's going to get so many targets. I personally, if I'm sitting there at 5, I probably scoop up Amon-Ra, even though his ADP is technically at the end of that first round. 11.2 is his ADP right now on Sleeper. So he's going at the tail end of the first round, but man, at number 5, I would take him all day. We'll look at one more receiver, and this is a guy that may make you fall out of your chair. Not a guy that I thought I'd be coming on here talking about, but he is going in the middle of the 7th round. He has a new head coach, a guy who has publicly come out and said, we need to get him the ball more. This is a receiver who said, I need to get the ball more. And he's playing with a quarterback who last year, when that quarterback played, they got him the ball more. And that is no other than Marvin Harrison Jr. in Arizona. Really an up and down start to his career. Highly touted coming out of college. And, love the talent. A lot of people want to dog on him. There's obviously some pictures going around the internet of him just looking jacked, and a lot of negative comments about how big he is and how slow he is. And I don't know. I'm not buying into it. I think in the middle of the 7th round or end of the 7th round, if I'm getting Marv as my wide receiver 3, maybe wide receiver 4, I'll take the chance on a year 3 breakout. I mean, we see it all the time. JSN last year was a year 3 breakout. I think I'm not ready to give up on Marv yet. I was pretty high on him last year. He obviously disappointed. I think with a new head coach, a new quarterback there, a guy who has been around the NFL for a long time in Jacoby Brissett, he knows how to get his playmakers the ball. I think they'll get Marv the ball. And even if they switch to Carson Beck, I have enough faith in Carson Beck and what he did in college to know that he's going to look at Marvin Harrison and say, I got to get that guy the ball. I think Trey McBride is obviously a superstar, but I don't think they want to get him as many targets as he's had over the last few years. Michael Wilson came on last year, 1,000-yard receiver. He's a fine piece. He's a wide receiver too. Marvin Harrison Jr. has to be the dog. He has to be the guy that they go to. And I think they just, early and often, they just get him the ball. They pepper him with targets, and you just see what happens. I mean, last year he started out with 6 targets in game 1, had 71 yards and a touchdown. A fine start. I mean, he had 18 points in that first week, and then he drops back down, has 2 catches, no touchdowns, 2 catches for 27 yards, 3 catches for 44 yards. I mean, just an up and down. Then the next week he has 10 targets, 6 catches, 66 yards, and a touchdown. A fine. I mean, nothing that's going to blow you away as, top 5 receiver. But if he's being drafted in the 7th round, I mean, I think he very well could be a top 25 receiver for you. So if you can get him that late in the draft and get wide receiver 2 numbers out of Marv, I love taking him all day, every chance I can. One more guy that we've talked about quite a bit this offseason, and this is a guy that he's getting some love more and more as the weeks go on, but Isaiah Likely in New York comes over with Coach Harbaugh after years in Baltimore playing second fiddle to Mark Andrews, and now is his time to shine. I mean, they have Theo Johnson there, but I just think they bring in a guy like Isaiah Likely to be the guy. He's going to be peppered with targets early this season, especially with Malik Neighbors coming back from that injury. I think Malik, all signs are pointing to him being there maybe for week 1, maybe week 2. But even if he's there, how long is it going to take him to ramp up to full speed? And what if he suffers a setback in preseason or in practice? Does that push it back a little bit further? The longer Malik is not there practicing with Jackson Dart, the more reps Isaiah Likely is going to get. And I think he's going to explode this year. I think he's a guy that people are not talking about enough right now in July. Obviously still some time before the drafts hit and things can move, but right now he's going at the end of the 10th round. I just think that the value there is so high for a guy like Isaiah Likely, who's going to be in a good offense, a good football team with the Giants. Coach Harbaugh is going to get him the ball. Matt Nagy is coming over from Kansas City where he did nothing but got Travis Kelce the ball in ways. And I think Isaiah Likely could have that kind of breakout year. We've seen him break out. Obviously, the start of, I think it was last year, right? That he had those first couple games where he was just dominating, or maybe it's just the first game. He just dominated and Mark Andrews disappeared completely. And then Isaiah Likely just kind of, went back to the bench role. Mark Andrews came back from his injuries over the years, and Isaiah Likely never stayed on the field. Now he gets the chance to be that alpha, to be that tight end one, and I think he's going to get a ton of targets this year. He's going to get those underneath routes. He's going to get those intermediate routes, and I think he's going to have plenty of red zone looks. I think he'll have, multiple touchdowns and be a consistent top 8 tight end every week for you. I think he's going to be a guy by the season end that you don't even think about. You just set it and forget it. He'll be, if you don't get one of those top 3 tight ends, I guess you can make a case for more, but really it's Bowers, McBride, and Warren for me. You go to Colson Loveland, he's not even the top target guy on his team. You can make a case that he's even behind Luther Burden. There's just a lot of question marks there for me about Loveland. I know some people really love him, and as a Michigan Wolverine guy, I'm a little bit more hesitant on Colson Loveland, but if you don't get one of those top guys and you're waiting at tight end, I think Isaiah Likely is a perfect guy to snag late in the draft, especially if you end up with a guy like George Kittle, who's coming back from injury and you need a second tight end. You've got a little bit deeper bench. Throw Isaiah Likely on there. When he starts going off at the beginning of the year, he fills in perfectly for George Kittle for you. I think Isaiah Likely could be one of the best picks in the entire draft this year. And staying right here at tight end, we are going to my favorite team, the Kansas City Chiefs, and a guy who is being drafted right around Isaiah Likely, and that is Travis Kelce. Before you come at me with the geriatric jokes and the Walkers and the Canes, let's just take a look at last year. Travis Kelce was a top 5 tight end at the position. And really it's been a decade since he has not been in the top 5, even with some injuries, missing some games, still a top 5 producer. Do I think that he is an elite fantasy football tight end that's going to win you the league? Absolutely not. Do I think that you can wait on tight end if you don't get one of those top couple guys, pick up Travis Kelce at the end of your draft and have a fine, maybe matchup dependent tight end that you can play and will give you top five numbers? Yes, I do. I think Travis Kelce is an exceptional pick late in the draft. I've even had some weird mock drafts on Sleeper where he's not getting drafted at all. I'll scoop him up at the end of my drafts all day. I just think he's going to get those targets. Rashee Rice is obviously wide receiver 1 there, but I could make a case for Kelce being that wide receiver 2 for the Chiefs, or pass catcher number 2, whatever you want to call it. The problem with Kelce is that he's not on the field like he used to be. He's not playing as many snaps, which is understandable. I mean, he is 37 years old now, or 36. He'll be 37, I think, at the start of the season. But he's just not playing as many snaps as he was. He started to ramp it up at the end of last year when they really needed to pull some wins out. Unfortunately, it didn't work. But you look at the start of the season last year, 77, 74, 66, 70%, 62% snaps. So just not as much, not on the field as much. But they don't really go out and do a whole lot at the tight end position. They still have Noah Gray there. They still have Jake Briningstool, who they really like, and they still have Jared Wiley there that they like, had the ACL injury. But I mean, nobody that's really, threatening Travis Kelce for tight end time. It's his gig and everybody else is just kind of learning from him. So I think at the end of your draft or one of those later rounds, taking Travis Kelce is a fine pick. Pair him with a guy like Isaiah Likely, pair him with somebody else. You're going to get top 8, top 7 production out of Travis Kelce. It's not always going to be pretty. I mean, you're going to have games like last year. I mean, he had 6, 9, then he went 19, 13, 8, 21, 24. I mean, you're going to have weeks like that. Against Tennessee, he had 1 point, 1 catch for 6 yards. I mean, not great always, but at the end of your draft, That's a guy that you want to wait in those middle rounds, stock up on your receivers, your running backs, and wait on a tight end and pick up a guy like Travis Kelce. He will win you some weeks throughout the season. All right, real quick before we go, we are going to look at just a couple honorable mention guys, and we'll stay right here in Kansas City to start things off. Xavier Worthy, a guy who I think was set to have a breakout season last year, gets hurt very early in that Chargers game, misses the next 2 games, comes back against Baltimore and has 8 targets, 5 catches, 83 yards, 17.1 PPR points. He was obviously good in college at Texas, ran a very fast 40 time at the combine, kind of blew up. Everybody thought there's no way he falls to the Chiefs in the draft. He does fall to the Chiefs, exactly what they needed, or so we thought. And Matt Nagy just never really did anything with him. But now Eric Bieniemy back in at OC for the Chiefs, a guy who had Tyreek Hill running all over defenses. And I'm not comparing Worthy 1-to-1 to Tyreek Hill, but obviously a ridiculous amount of speed for Worthy. They've talked openly about those intermediate routes and how good he comes across the middle of the field. I think that Xavier Worthy could be one of those guys who has that year 3 breakout like a JSN. And he's going late in drafts, maybe even undrafted in some leagues. Let's see where he is going exactly. So he's going in the middle of the 12th round as of the recording of this video. So I mean, the guys that he's going around just they don't have the upside that he has. And he's playing on a Chiefs offense that should be better this year, should be back to kind of how they were. Eric Bieniemy coming back in, love the things that he does offensively. And I think Pat's going to look to get Xavier Worthy the ball. Teams are obviously going to double up on Rashee Rice at times. And I think Xavier Worthy across the middle of the field could be lethal all season. We look at another guy real quick who is going even later in drafts. Let's see where he's going. All right, so Cameron Ward at the end of the 14th round, so after Kyler Murray even, which is absolutely crazy to me because we know that Cam Ward is the guy in Tennessee. We know that they just got Wan'Dale Robinson to come over from the Giants. We know that they drafted Carnell Tate. We know that they have Brian Daboll, who has shown good things as an offensive coordinator. Cameron Ward is going to take a step this year. And last year, I mean, not the greatest season for Cameron Ward. He was quarterback 22, but he had some decent games there, especially as the season went on. He had some really bad ones, which hurt his average. But I mean, you look after the Week 10 bye, he goes to Houston, he plays against Houston, has 194 yards and a touchdown, where he throws it 37 times. 42 times. I mean, he threw the ball a lot, which helped his numbers, but still, against Seattle, Super Bowl champions, he had 256 yards and a touchdown. He adds some 37 yards and a touchdown on the ground. He just has a good, safe floor with some rushing upside that I think we'll see a little bit more this year. I think last year was a learning year for Cam Ward, and I think this year, new head coach, new offensive coordinator, new weapons around him. I think Cam Ward's going to take that step, and at the end of the 14th round, you're taking a flyer on a guy who could pay off and be a top 10 quarterback. Do I think he's an every week starter for your team? No, but he's probably a flyer or a bye week fill-in by middle of the season. I think Cam Ward maybe isn't even a guy that you draft, but you just keep an eye on. You pick him up after the draft. You pick him up after the first week or two. Just keep an eye on Cam Ward to break out this year. I think he's going to have a much better season than last year. And then the last guy I want to talk about is another guy who is in a new team or on a new team in a new city. He's going in a late round as well, the middle to end of the 11th round. That is Rachaad White, who comes into Washington as the guy that will fill in for Austin Eckler, kind of have that Austin Eckler role. And, he has shown things in the past few years in Tampa Bay that he's still got it. I mean, just 27 years old. Just 3 years ago, he was running back 4 for Tampa Bay. He comes into a team that has Bill, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, Katron Allen, the rookie running back from Penn State. Then they have Jerome Ford, Jeremy McNichols is still there. I just think that there's a reason they went out and got Rachaad White, played college ball with Jaden Daniels, and I think that there is a reason they brought him in. He's going to catch some passes. He's going to have a safe floor. I think that there's a lot that they liked about Bill, but I think they want that guy that can be trusted in pass pro, that can get the goal line work and can catch passes. I think Rachaad White in the end of the 12th round is a great value pick. I mean, you're taking a bench running back there that could end up being a running back too as the season goes on. I don't think there's any harm taking Rachaad White in an offense that's going to have to score a lot of points. I mean, you look at that division and who knows what Philadelphia is going to be with new OC and some new players there. But Dallas's offense should score a lot of points. I think the Giants' offense on paper look like they could score a lot of points, especially if Neighbors is back earlier than later. I just think, Washington's got a lot of holes to fill, and they went out and got Rachaad White. They don't bring in a guy like that to just put him on the bench. So I think Rachaad White at the end of the 12th round is a phenomenal value pick. But let me know, what do you guys think? Am I way off on some of these guys? Am I off on all of them? Who do you think is the guys that you want to leave your draft with? Who are some of these guys that you love this year? Did I talk about them? Did I not talk about them? Let's have a conversation in the comments. Let me know. My drafts are coming up here in a few weeks. Some of them are starting, and these are some of the guys right now in the middle of July that I'm really loving, and I want to know who you think is going to break out this fantasy season. Let me know, and I will catch you guys in the kitchen on the next episode. Have a great day.